I get it. You have everything pulling at you right now. And the one that pulls at you the most is your child wanting to spend time with you, but not wanting to play another round of Among Us or Pokemon. Well, that's why I created the Time for Us journals. They are a prompt journal meant for kids ages 2 to 12 for you to spend time with your child on something that really matters. You talk about the day, ways that they've been creative, a unique prompt, and even a special way to be creative together. And guess what? It only takes focused 5 to 10 minutes a day for your child to really feel like you see them and that they matter. And it frees you up to do the things that you need to get done as well. Use the code CEO at timeforusjournals.com as a special thanks from me to you. Thank you for listening. Welcome back, everyone, to Call Me CEO. I am your host, Camille Walker, and I am so grateful that you are here. Whether you are listening in while you're doing a pile of laundry, catching up on a quick run, or even settling down for a nice, quiet moment, I'm so grateful to you for pressing play. If you would like to join the conversation on Instagram, which I really hope you do, please follow along at Call Me CEO Podcast on Instagram and say hi. I love it when you say hi. I am thrilled for you to listen in on this interview today. We are speaking with one of my biggest heroes and someone I admire the very most in this world, my one and only sister, Janae Moss. Janae is a mother to 7, 4 grandchildren, and a co-owner of multiple businesses. She is a family advocate and a community organizer. She truly has a heart of gold. She is the co-founder of Parents Driving Change and its umbrella organization, Humans Driving Change. Parents Driving Change encourages parents to use their innate ability to lead by sharing their experiences with the organizations that support them. She and her husband, John, have built several businesses, including their Flagship RBM Building Maintenance company. Pretty incredible, right? And amongst all of this, she decided to go back to college recently and finish her undergraduate degree. She has a BA in Integrated Studies with an emphasis in psychology and leadership and is earning a master's in performance psychology. RBM, the largest family-owned building maintenance company in the Intermountain West, has tracked 20% growth since John and Janae purchased the company in 2004. In 2020, RBM was ranked in the Inc. 5000 for 91% growth rate over a 3-year period of time. Alongside the success of RBM and its 6 sister companies, Janae is a passionate social entrepreneur trained in performance psychology because she believes all organizations are based on the people that make it great. But the thing that I love about Janae most, above all of these accomplishments and accolades, is that she truly seeks for the best in other people and the best in any situation. She has a grit and a happiness that is contagious, and I cannot wait for you to hear. Let's bring in Janae. So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? We'll listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I couldn't be more excited because we are having an interview today with my sister, Janae Moss. And in my opinion, she is one of the most incredible women to walk the planet. She's incredibly positive and wonderful, but also hardworking, and has taught me basically everything I know. So we're going to spend a lot of time today digging into her story, but also how she is reinventing herself, even as a grandmother now, which is crazy to say. But Janae, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Camille. You say I taught you everything you know, and you're my little sister, but I joke because you've always been, not always been taller. That would be scary, but you are taller than me. And I learn a lot from you, and you're 8 years younger, and I learned so much from you. So it's been an awesome relationship where we both get so much from loving each other. So I'm so happy to be here and support you in this way.
Thank you. And for those who may not know, Janae and I have worked together for years and years. She and I actually used to run the blog together. And so we have been weaving in and out of each other's personal story and just cheering each other on as we go after new things. And so she and I both are kind of launching into new stories. But Janae, can you take us to the beginning of basically when you left the nest. I feel like you have a pretty inspirational story that she will go around and share with people all over the country. And so it's such a treat. And I'd love to have that introduction, learning more about you, where you've been, and where you're going.
That could be a really long story because I'm getting pretty old from the nest. I'm thinking, wow, we don't have that much time, but I'll hit on a few things. One thing I have learned recently is that, I've had this story that I've told and shared for a long time, like you said now, but what I'm realizing is that it's just part of my story, and stories keep evolving. And thank goodness we have chapters, because that story, although it's my beginning, so much has happened since those beginning years that really shaped the direction that I went. And I'm so grateful for the things that I've learned and experienced, because it's why I am here where I am now. But it's evolved. I've used that message and what I learned during that time to continue to learn more. So I guess that's the goal for all of us, is to continue on. What you're referring to, I'm sure, is the really exciting first few years of John and my marriage. I think a lot of people have a lot of, exciting first years of marriage in different ways. For me, it was exciting. John and I had dated for 3.5 years. I was 17 when I met him, almost 18. So thank goodness we had those 3.5 years to just get to know each other and play, and not have it be super intense, experience that you get from a really long-term relationship. But we played hard and worked hard. Well, John worked harder than I did at that time. John started building his business when he was probably around 8 years old. He started building a landscaping business, and he, even before that, he would sell bunnies and cherries and eggs and anything he could get his hands on to sell. He was just naturally really entrepreneur. He was a natural entrepreneur, and I jumped on that bandwagon the second I met him, but he just came that way, and he loves it. He's just driven. But so when I met him, we were both young. He already had one baby that he'd had right out of high school, and I fell in love with her, and I fell in love with him, and we just started going down the path. I was going to school at the time, UVCC, which is a community college, and I would go to classes when it felt like it would be fun, and I didn't when it felt like I had something more fun to do. And I I just wasn't. Anyway, that's a whole other episode. But I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I had the chance to just get out and to learn to live on my own and understand what different bills were and things like that. But so I started building his landscaping business with him. Sometimes I'd go on the job and actually have, a shovel in hand, or learn to drive the backhoe and things like that. And other times I'd be in the office just recording his receipts and things more like that. But we definitely started advertising right from the beginning. Promoting is a fun thing that I love. And we have a picture of us somewhere where I have a handwritten poster board that says JR, John Roberts Landscaping, and it's with a black Sharpie marker. And it was at a professional trade show, but it's just all the money we had for advertising at the time. And so we did. We sold together. We built together. Right after we were married, we were married in about March, and we started kind of going along. It was springtime for landscaping, so that was exciting. We had some kind of bad dealings that summer with people that didn't see the benefit of paying their full bill to sale. It's another episode. And so we were kind of limping along already. And then we had a baby in August. And in November, my husband started doing things where he wouldn't come home at night, or he wouldn't show up, or he wouldn't call me. And he was acting in ways that he'd never acted before. And I just thought, what's wrong? What's going on? We had this brand new baby. And I remember saying to him, where have you been? And he said, well, if you're going to be mad, I'm just going to leave again. So I couldn't understand. Everything had shifted. He was acting in ways he'd never acted before. And one day I looked across our house, which is the size of like kind of a tough shed, really. I looked across into the kitchen because it was just like a square or so. And I saw him taking his medicine that had been prescribed by the doctor. And it all of a sudden clicked. And I looked at him. I said, is that your right medicine? And he said, well, I don't know. It's just what was in the bottle. Long story short, he had been given opposite what he was supposed to take, triple the dose. And it obviously was being really hard on his body, and it was affecting how he was acting and things like that. So we learned really quick what it meant to be rich in debt rich with bill collectors, and we were poor in food, things like that, basic things we needed just to survive. And so just to give you an idea of our family, we had Sydney right when we were married, and then I had Kinley later in August that year. And then we had only 18 months later, we had Whitney was born. And 10 days later, Chantel, my niece, came to live with us because she was either going to go to state custody or the state asked us to raise her. So in 2 years, I had 4 kids, and I think I was about 22 at the time, wow. Almost maybe 23. So it was exciting. It was an exciting start. And so that's the base of the story of what I tell, because what happened is later on, that led me to really wanting to get people help with resources when they needed them, because I didn't know where to go when I needed help. And I remember calling Ask a Nurse because there was no internet. Yes, that's how old I am. I'm a dinosaur. And I remember calling Ask a Nurse, and I learned about really important things like WIC checks and just like food stamps and getting help to feed my babies. But it really set me on a trajectory that has set up my love for going forward. So that's trying to condense a really long story.
Yeah. And what is really fascinating to me about this is that John, from the get-go, has been a very self-driven entrepreneur. And when you met him, he was doing extremely well financially. So this was quite the flip from what you had been experiencing. And I think that that's important to point out, is that you had been doing really well. You did get to the point where things were not going well. And now you're to the place where together as a team, you've built this company back up to be monumentally large. I mean, give our audience an idea of where you are now, because I mean, that's something I'll do a little bit in the intro, but give an idea of where you are together.
Let's see. Well, when we lost everything, he shifted to working at a healthcare center with his friend just to start getting out of the house, because it was a really hard time for our family. And he swore he would never work with his dad in janitorial, because that's what his dad did. And John grew up cleaning toilets in exchange for Big Macs. So he said, I will never go back, and I'll never work to clean commercial buildings like my dad did. He hated his friends at school calling his dad the janitor. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't feel like it was as cool of a job as some of his friends' dads. But since then, we built, and I remember sitting around a table with about 10 people with spouses for Christmas party. And now, just to give an idea of where we're at, I think just with managers alone, we have about 800 people coming to our Christmas party. And that's just managers and some supervisors and their spouses. So it's grown in the way of taking care of property management. But what we also found was, when we would go on the job site, people wanted things that aligned with things that we already did. So now we do disaster cleanup, and we do landscape and snow removal. We do Christmas lighting. We do carpet cleaning, and just all the things that flow with it already. So it has grown, and it's been quite a ride.
Wow. You do Christmas lighting now? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, for several years. We don't do it. Yeah, we don't do it for houses. And so we just don't get a lot of same kind of advertising on Facebook, because we're advertising to different groups,
Okay. Well, Janae is being very modest, as you can tell. What's really amazing about John and Janae both is that they are extremely giving, truly two of the most giving people I know. And that has launched Janae into doing really incredible philanthropic work with United Way and helping to raise money and awareness for children that are in need all over the country. And I believe that it's because of the experience that you've had that you really, from a very empathetic, heartfelt way, what it feels like to be relying on those checks to be able to get food for your family. And tell us a little bit about that. How were you able to get your foot in the door with helping with charity work and making a difference that way?
Yeah, thanks, Camille. You're so awesome. So I was really blessed to have this wonderful woman move in next door to me named Barbara Levitt. And her husband had just passed away from cancer, and she had 4 daughters to raise. and she'd moved in and went back to get her MPA. She had run a business with her husband for many years in LA. And we became fast friends. She would run next door, and we would just chat about things. And her daughters, I'd wake up in the morning and they would be getting milk from my fridge. And
That's happened many times when I would babysit and there were other kids in the house. I'm like, what? It's 7:30 in the morning. Why are you here?
Yeah. And it's kind of how we run our house anyway. It's pretty open door policy, but they really became an extension of our family. Mm-hmm. And she decided to go work at United Way because she was very passionate in LA about helping families get resources that they needed. So she even helped in LA at a school. She raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for a playground for the kids in the LA schools that couldn't afford to have one. But she believed that the parents could raise the money. And so they did bake sales. They did all of these things to raise a ton of money. And this was in a poor community. And she just believed in the power of the parent and the power of a goal. And so she came to me already having this amazing perspective of in encouraging and allowing parents voice in systems. And so when I met her and she started teaching me about ways to look at this, ways to look at the way that how parents could be involved in the community, I really believed her and I trusted her. And one day she found online a program called Help Me Grow. And she came over next door and to my house and she said, Janae, you've got to see this. I'm so excited. It's this program called Help Me Grow by Dr. Dworkin in Connecticut, and Utah needs it. There's so many awesome parents in Utah, and they need to have a way to be connected into resources in the community. And it's not easy. It's not easy to know where to go to get what you want and what you need for your kids. And it just, for me, it just struck a chord. And sometimes I get emotional about it, and I am today, because it changed my life. It changed not only the perspective that, because of when I needed help, I wish I had a Barbara Levitt in my life, but also that I could be a voice and an extension of what she was to help other people and parents trust their own inner voice and to know how to get resources for their own families. And so I helped Barbara start building this organization with whatever, money John and I could at the time. And we did free pancake breakfasts at the park just to try to start telling parents about it. It's connected to 211, the 211 phone line for Utah. And it's this amazing program. 211 had already been around, but through the process of working on Help Me Grow, Barbara's connected it to the 211 info line for Utah. And now it's statewide and it's funded by the state and by other programs that take their grant money to put into it because it's such an important tool. But it's taken many years to get there. So that was really my start of why I wanted to work in the community. It's because I met somebody and I saw the fire in her eyes and how much time she took to give, even when she was struggling in her own life herself.
That is so inspiring. And I can attest to Barbara. She is the salt of the earth. Like, she has a heart of gold, is always looking to give. And even when she herself was going through something so difficult, what can you say to that as being able to grow during a time of hardship, an experience that you've had that has changed your life for good in that way?
Well, I think that that's the next really chapter of my story. And that is that it's important to look at change and hardship like a chance for growth. And it is a lot easier to say than to do. I get that. But, there's only one plaque in my house that's always been up. There's different things that I've had up over the years that come and go. But there's only one that's been up, and it's really dirty and dingy by now. But it says, attitude is everything. Pick a good one. And it's just simple. And even my kids know it's kind of my motto for myself and for my family. That especially right now in times of challenge and everything is shifting and it can feel really scary and frustrating. It can make you angry and depressed and all of these things, really the only thing we have control over is our attitude. That's it. We can't control the future. We can't change the past, but we can change and work on today. And that message is probably the biggest thing I've learned from working in the community and working with all kinds of people. I think that if you're, and this is a whole other podcast, like I said, on service, but if you're feeling frustrated or like stuck, I think the fastest way to get through that is to serve somebody. And it's because you get to see life through a different lens. You get to meet people and let them show you their world. And then all of a sudden you realize it's hard for me and it's hard for them and it's hard for everyone. It just looks different. So, I kind of went on a tangent, but that's the biggest lesson I would say I've learned from that.
No, I think that's a monumental lesson. I think a lot of us collectively are going through something so hard. 2020 has been, something that came and hit us all square in the face saying you're not in control and you're going to have to modify. And I think, what you're saying about keeping your attitude and your perspective in check is really the only thing we have control over, is that lens that we then expand and allow other people into our lives. And I think that's something that you and I both and all of our siblings can attest to, is that our parents really taught and led the way for that learning and seeing other people's perspectives is really the only way to live. And it's the best way to be happy. So,
yeah, one of my favorite things is showing up at our Christmas parties and meeting people.
Yeah.
You never know who's going to be there. And I love that. And the reason why is because they have their door open to people that, that need somewhere to go. So I love that. It really changes your attitude, your perspective on everything.
Yes. So something that Janae and I were talking about earlier today, and it's a big passion for this podcast and as well for Janae's mission, is helping women, especially through transitional times. And Janae now has adult daughters, married with children, and also having gone through different things and starting their own businesses. And I want to talk a little bit to that, of finding our own direction and purpose and how to discover what really makes our own purpose thrive.
Yeah, that's actually, if I could name one thing that's my favorite thing about parenting, it's that I love when I think back to the first time that each of my babies was placed on my chest and I looked at them and I just cried every time. It's so emotional. And I loved looking at them and thinking, who are you? Who are you going to be? What are you going to want? And I'm your biggest cheerleader. I had no idea for each of them what that would look like. I'm really big on not choosing for them. I'm really about supporting their development and growth. Obviously, I put them in things that I love at first. I love dance, and one kid really wanted to try soccer. And there's things that I love that I would enjoy being a spectator at. There's some things that are more fun than others to support as a parent. I remember Whitney, when she was in gymnastics, she would sit in meets for 8 hours sometimes, and they would go run down the mat, boop, and they do one little flip, and then you have to wait like 2 more hours. It's like, that's not the funnest. But my funnest part, the thing I love the very most, is watching their development and having their lives unfold before you and just jumping in and supporting them. I'm not perfect and I do a lot of things wrong, but that is one thing that I absolutely love. It is not easy. So I thought that like toddlers were going to be the hardest, or like early teens. And these are hard times, but I had no idea how hard the transition from high school to like through early young adulthood would be. It's something that you're really not prepared for, just like every other phase, but is a very important time. And knowing how to support them is hard, because now it's not that's not your decision like it was when they were, say, 2, but you want to support them. So it is not easy, but it is my favorite part of being a mom.
I think that's so interesting to watch. You've always been 8 years ahead of me in everything. And I think every step along the way, you'll be like, well, you thought that was hard, but wait till this is next, the teenage years. And, oh, you thought that was hard. Now wait for this. And I'm just like, oh, figure it out and then tell me what to do.
Well, and that's the thing. It doesn't even matter if I did, because
it doesn't.
From kid to kid, they're all different anyway.
They're so different. No.
Yeah. And really what you're working on is yourself the whole time. It's nothing about them. It's about you saying, I support them and I love them. And this is their journey over and over and over, this patience thing that you learn to help guide and mold. And of course, you need to set boundaries so they're not running all over you and take things away if you need to, if something's going wrong. But in the end, it's about us learning to be patient and to support them. So So yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I think my next phase, as you said, is my most exciting, and that is that I'm trying to figure out what it is. When you asked me to write my bio, I was like, well, I've done this and I've done this. I'm old enough now that I have some different areas of my life that I could write bios about. But I think the most beautiful thing and the hardest thing is that I am also in transition, just like my kids. I'm in a liminal phase, as we were talking earlier. And that is, I have these experiences and I know that this next phase is coming, but what does that look like? What does that feel like? And liminal phases are really hard. It's something that we feel more comfortable and stable when we know what the next steps are. But like I was talking earlier, we can have a plan and we can kind of decide where we want things, the direction we want things to go, but then life happens anyway. So I am in a liminal phase, and much like when you graduate from high school and you're trying to find what you're doing next, I'm doing the same thing. I still have a few little ones at home that are coming up on the end, but I am in a recreation phase for myself. That's exciting and it's scary.
I feel like a lot of our audience can relate with that because, so often we get really wrapped up and absorbed in what our kids are about and their activities and their lives, which is fantastic. It's wonderful. But then we get to a place where it's the what's next, or even, it goes through different phases, because I feel like where I am now that my kids are entering school full time during the day, it's like, wow, pretty soon here, I am going to have the entire day. What does that look like? And I know that that can be a big transition for people. And then again, it happens as they leave the nest, so to speak, like, what does that look like now? And so you're getting your master's degree, which you decided to go back and get your undergraduate degree just last year. I guess it's been over the last few years. Mm-hmm. And what did that feel like, going to school as a grandma and getting your degree and then saying, this is amazing, I'm just going to keep pushing?
Well, you brought up a lot of subjects in that last question. So the first one,
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's all intermeshed, right? But the first one is, you think you're going to have all day, and then the kids start coming back. So like everybody says that, and like, no, it's really important. They're on their own. But the reality is that our world is hard to launch into. Housing is very expensive. If they want an education, you want them to be able to do that, or you want to be able to support that, but you don't want to do it for them. And so it's this really hard. It's fun, but it's hard. But they do start coming back in ways when they need to. You're still a home base, and you want it that way. The funny thing about this year, quote unquote funny, is that with it being 2020, I had actually all of my kids come back. So Sydney, Kinley, Whitney, Brighton, Ella, Hallie, Jordan. And then I had my grandkids, Emma, Grace, Max. And then Sydney was actually pregnant with her fourth while she was here. She brought her 2 dogs. I had my 2 dogs, and Kinley had her dog. So our house was insane. And it was the most ultimate definition of them coming back. And what I found about that is how hard it was to have them all home again, to have from baby and pregnancy phase all the way through a mom that was mothering. I would be mothering my kids and saying, go clean your room, take your shoes to your closet. And then I would turn to my grandkids and say, do you guys want a cookie? Let's do a puzzle, And so it was this, like, my whole life flashed forward in front of me. And then when they started leaving, when Sydney moved to Texas with the kids, and then when Kinley and Brighton moved out together, and Whitney made it on the Greaterettes team and went to Las Vegas, I lost so much of that life all at the same time that I went through. Here I am again. This is the 3rd time I've teared up. I went through a really hard transition again. Like, I'm surrounded by life. I love being a mom. This is so hard. I'm so tired. And I don't do anything but mother. And I remember crying to John in the shower again. People don't get it, how hard it is to be a mom and be at home and feel like you don't have any friends. You can't go anywhere, and you just feel like you never do it right. And it's never all done. And I started getting all those feelings of having so many people in my home. I didn't want to change it, but it was hard. To all of a sudden it went boom, 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 people moving out. And then I was like devastated. And I went through a depression of I think it was a really good lesson, like a fast forward lesson of enjoy these last few years, Janae, because it goes so fast. And I never want to downplay how hard, people always say, enjoy them now, it goes fast and then they're gone. But that doesn't make it any less hard in the day to day. It is still really hard to enjoy them, even though they're going to leave. But it did give me a really fast forward view of like, this is where I've come, this is where I'm going, and I'm a grandma. And it was shocking, but it was another beautiful entry into, like I said, this liminal phase of where am I now and what's going to happen next.
So you went back to school. You graduated.
I didn't even say anything of that. I went back to school. Yeah, that was like 4 years ago. I was in school for about 3 years to finish my last 2 years of my degree. I wasn't quite to 2 years.
What made you brave enough to do that? Because that is a lot. That's a big deal.
It really is. Those young kids, they're scary. In your mind, they're scary because you're like, it's more about you. Like, I'm old. Do I fit in there? Once you go, you realize, oh, there's people of all ages and I fit in here. I love UVU for that reason.
Yes, they are very good about that.
There's a place for you at UVU is what they say. And it really is true. You go back and there's people from all backgrounds, cultures, ethnicities, countries, and ages. And I really felt like it was a good fit for me. I went back because I made a promise to myself and to my grandpa all growing up that I wanted to finish. He'd worked really hard to try to support both my grandma and grandpa, to support and make sure that the grandkids felt supported in going to college. And I wasn't ready at first. And I changed direction and started my family, and that's fine. But for me and my life, feeling like I had achieved things I'd set out to do, it was important to me that I finished. And so started math first. That was the scariest part. It's what stopped me the first time. And I finished. And when I finished, that was December 2019. Is that right? Yeah. I graduated. They had a walkthrough outside graduation in August for that degree. And then I was like, you know what? I'm in the zone and I have so much more I want to learn. And although there were lots of degrees people were encouraging me to get, like my husband wanted me to get an MBA. I had friends that wanted me to get MPA because I work a lot in the communities. And I said, no, I want to get performance psychology degree because I have a good friend named Dr. Craig Manning that taught me a way to look at things in a proactive way through hardships. And I really loved his message. So I am excited to take what I'm learning there and to apply it in my own voice in the way that I would share it.
I love watching you going through this journey because it really has been so fun and inspiring to see. And I think that the part where you talked about keeping that promise to yourself, that is so essential for us as humans to really tap into that desire that we have and that passion that we have, and creating promises and keeping them to ourselves. And so what did that feel like to finally accomplish that thing? Did it feel the way you thought it would?
That's a really good question. I mean, it was a million emotions. During the pandemic, my kids actually threw me a graduation because we weren't able to have our traditional graduation. So they borrowed different gowns and different sashes to put on me. And I'm sure I didn't earn a real sash, but I felt so supported and loved. And it was a beautiful thing to watch the kids that I'd raised support me so fully, and to have, they had music, they had a rug for me to walk down. We had flowers and balloon garlands. And the most beautiful thing was not only that I just finished, but that I was able to accomplish something that I know my kids will learn from. And what I hope they learn is that they chase their own dreams and keep their own promises. So what did it feel like? It was amazing. So much so that I'm crazy and jumping into doing more. And I feel like now it's beyond just finishing because I wanted to finish. And now it's like I get to really focus in on the things that I'm so excited about.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you too. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that our mother taught us, and that we are in turn trying to teach our kids, is that you can have permission to chase after those passions and to not feel apologetic about it. You know, that you can still be an awesome mom and be extremely involved and in touch with what's going on in their lives. And you can also go after something that is something that you want to do. And at the very root of it all is that I know you want to help people. So where do you see this going now? Now that you're not quite ready to get there yet. And I know that because you're still in school and it's very demanding. But if you were to say today what you hope to do with that, what would it be?
I'm so excited. And this is why, I could live till 150 and still want to do more things, you know me, but I'm excited to help people identify their inner voice and to trust themselves. And that's going to come through, a lot of different ways. But I've, dreamt about doing a retreat with my daughter that works on yoga. And it's a lot more than yoga. It's restorative yoga. So people can start listening to their inner voice. And I'm excited to do that with her. I'm excited to work with all my daughters in different ways. And I'm excited to work with more women and to encourage them to do what they want to do. And, I don't know if that's going to lead to retreats is what we've talked about. I've also talked about starting a center for women that has resources in all different kinds of ways. So they could come exercise, they could come do yoga, they could come get their hair done, they could come get sessions for performance psychology, because performance psychology just isn't sports. It goes into every aspect of a life, whether it's business or at home or with goals that people are setting themselves. So it really will work for so many avenues. And I'm excited to see exactly where that goes. We use it in our company all the time. I may focus on helping my friends with companies and their workforce, and it may be more focused on women. I'm not totally sure, but that's the beauty of it. I'm excited because I'm finally wrapping up some trainings. I've been writing for almost 10 years in different ways with Barbara about the things that we've learned together. And that's really close to wrapping up. And I think that will tie into my school wrapping up at the same time, as well as where my next phase is going. I'm going to be a strengths finder trainer also after next week that will also tie into everything. So just exciting. I'm kind of gearing up. I'm getting all of my tools together. So whatever I feel like doing, I can do.
Yeah. And that's the truth. I think anything that you set your mind to, you could do it. So if someone is listening to you right now and they want to know how you've been able to raise independent thinkers, women especially that believe in their vision. And for those of you who weren't counting, Janae has 7 children and 4 grandchildren when a new one was just born.
Lola,
yes. What would you say to that mom that is in the trenches and can't quite chase after those dreams yet, but just needs encouragement to keep going every day? What has helped you?
Yeah, really for me, it helped to start writing my blog. It actually saved my life in 2007. I wrote the blog pinkmoss.com. And, I couldn't write very well then, but I wrote what I could and I shared what pictures I could. It was the old fashioned blog. There's no advertisements on it, but it helped me develop the voice that I have today, because I started recognizing at the end of the day, when I shared everything I've been through with the kids and with business and everything, I started recognizing what made me happy and brought me joy. And I always talked about my 10 joys, and I write them down and I keep them by my bedside table, and it's in my training I'm writing. But identifying joys is really important. And they're things like that don't cost money, right? So I'm talking listening to music, going for a walk, calling a friend. These are some of mine. So you got to come up with yours. And what I learned from writing is that writing was one of mine, writing and reading. And that's what saved me. So I would say, and also gave me the confidence to jump back in and to keep going when I had more time. All I could do was write each day. And that was really hard to be able to write the days that I could to get the time with all my little kids. So I would say that look at what brings you joy. I think that's the first step. Be really reflective about it, things that you could do. I was so good at it, I would say number 2 and number 4, that's what I need to do today. And I would force myself to do it when I felt depressed or frustrated or postpartum, things like that. And then what you'll start to do is see common themes that rise up. And you can say, these are the things that give me fire, that help me keep burning inside, even when I've been up all night changing diapers or cleaning up messes. This is what brings me joy. And the better I got at identifying those and trying to implement them into my day-to-day life, the more happiness I felt. And then when it was time and my kids got a little bit older and I could start doing more actionable things where I could leave the house for short periods of time and go to United Way, which was what it was for me. I had already understood myself better and created my list of joys and my passions. And so it made an easier transition. I think we get in trouble when we wait. We give everything to our kids and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. But then if we wait until they're all gone, say, and then all of a sudden you look around and you say, I have a lot more years to live, hopefully with blessing, I have more to do. And then you really have to start the journey then. I would encourage to start earlier, write things down, pay attention, meditate, really think and be honest with yourself and listen to your own intuition about what those things are and find ways to gradually implement them in your day-to-day life.
Good advice. I think that identifying who you are and those little tiny things that you can fit into the day are essential. I was reading an article the other day that said something about, being able to wash your hair is not self-care. Like that is hygiene. But someone in defense said, yeah, that's true. But sometimes when you're a young mom and you have so many things pulling at you, like being able to wash your hair feels really good. And that can change the trajectory of that day. And Absolutely. So do you want that to be your self-care forever? And the only thing you do? No. But I like how you said, just identifying small things that can change the outlook of the day and really get you through days that can be rough. So that is incredible advice.
Well, you're really good at that, Camille. You're good at that. And so's Mom. And I think someday you should interview Mom, but
I should. You're right. I really should.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one more question I want to ask you because it is so unique to you that I feel like I would be remiss not to ask this question. And that is, how have you managed over so many years to work and support with a very busy husband who runs his own business and has a lot of times left you in situations where you have had to do bedtime routine on your own, given his work hours and everything else? What would be your advice to women who are going through that?
Well, I may have a little bit of a unique perspective on that. The first thing that I would even correct you on is say, he doesn't have a business, we have a business.
Right.
And I was better able to support long hours because I've always felt that way. I felt that even though I wasn't in the office, and I rarely can even now, I owned it. I own it with him. And we built together, we strategized together daily. And I've seen that way. And I also give credit to him because when I go into boardrooms with him, I'm the only female. It happens all the time. I'm currently the chair of the Chamber of Commerce starting 2021. And I got used to feeling comfortable in those situations because my husband let me and supported me and encouraged me to feel comfortable in those situations. And he's always said, this is your company too, Janae. You belong there. You deserve to be there. And one of my mentors, Dr. Susan Manson, always says how important it is to have women advocates, and especially, that are male, because they are already in those positions of power and of decision making. And thank goodness that I married a man that is that way. And because of that, it filters through the whole organization. And when I'm able to show up in the ways that I can, people treat me like I belong there. And so the long hours at home, I felt like this is my investment in the company too. It's an investment in my family, but it's also my investment in a company that supports my family. So the nights, the long hours and everything, when I'd have moms say to me, aren't you mad he hasn't come home for dinner again? Or he's out all night. He's been gone for 2 days. Do you trust him? When there's been like major disasters, there was a flood at a building in Salt Lake a few years ago that took out from 5 floors down of a huge building in Salt Lake. And I didn't see him for, I would drive up with the kids after hours, after like 2 or 3 days. And we'd just go say, hi, this is right before Christmas time. And I guess I've just chosen, attitude is everything. Pick a good one. I've chosen that his decisions are strategic with my decisions. And together we've chosen to pay the price so that we can build the company and to find ways to balance all the things. So I would say I would say that that's it. And keeping a lot of fun, finding ways to have fun, whether your husband can be there or not, with your kids, that you're laughing with them, you're playing with them, you're getting to know them better by doing those things, and to just have joy, to find joy in those things, so that if you let it get to you, and believe me, there's times that it's gotten to me. I'm not going to say that. There's times that it's hard and I feel angry. But if every time John's able to come home and he chooses to come home every chance he gets, and if I'm angry when that happens, how much is he going to want to be there? He'd rather be at work, Mm-hmm. So I try to make it so that when he's able to be there, and I know he does every second he can, that we grab up the kids and we go to the park, or we go do whatever we can and spend that time together building, instead of being frustrated that that's our life.
And I can attest to that. You really have built it together, and the strategy and the growth pattern and everything else, it has been very much a team effort, and it's been so fun to watch. So
thanks,
you're welcome. And it's incredible. It's incredible what you've built. And I just want to thank you for being here today. It's been so fun to interview you. And I feel like we covered so many incredible topics. I know I'm going to ask you back. So if anyone has specific questions that you'd like to ask Janae, please let me know. You can DM me at Call Me CEO Podcast on Instagram, or you can email me. And when Janae has her website up and going, I think by the time we air this, I will have links to that as well. But where can people find you today?
Today, right now my focus is just really on Facebook. I'm pretty active. I've cut back a little bit on purpose recently, but Janae G. Moss on Facebook, and Instagram, I'm on there for fun. It's also Janae G. Moss. In a little bit, by this time next year, I'll be wrapping up my degree, my master's, and I'll shift more over to humans driving change, which is all of the programs and everything I'm building. So there'll be kind of a shift there, but that's where you can find me in the meantime.
Perfect. Well, we will definitely be there, and I'm going to ask you on again for sure. But thank you for spending your time with us today.
Thanks, Camille. Love you.
Love you. Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.